All right, let's dive deep into a story that's as chilling as the ocean depths themselves. It's about a recovery mission that went, well, horribly wrong. This is the story of the last transmission.
Now, I have to start by saying this. The story you're about to hear sounds like something straight out of a horror movie. It feels like it has to be fake, but as you can see, it isn't. So, our story really kicks off in 2019 with a guy named Grant Walters. He was one of the best professional divers out there, and he was hired for a really specific, high-stakes job off the coast of Nova Scotia. His mission? Find the wreck of a ghost ship called the Harrow's Call and bring back its black box. And the Harrow's Call wasn't just some old fishing boat. We're talking about a state-of-the-art research vessel that had just, poof, vanished decades ago. No SOS, no debris, nothing. It was a true ghost ship, the kind of legends sailors whisper about in the North Atlantic. From the second Grant started his descent, things just felt off. The ocean was described as being completely silent, like unnaturally still. It wasn't just a deep, dark dive. It was as if the whole ocean was holding its breath, just waiting for him. And as he got deeper, things went from weird to worse. First, his sonar, his main way of navigating down there, started glitching out. Then, once he passed 400 feet, all the light from the surface was just gone. Total, crushing blackness, with just the beam from his headlamp. And it was right there, in that abyss, that he saw it, the shadow of the Harrow's Call. But the wreck itself was just wrong. The damage wasn't what you'd expect. The super thick metal hull was bent outward. I mean, just think about that for a second. Whatever destroyed this ship didn't come from the ocean trying to crush it. It came from something inside trying to punch its way out. Now, despite this massive, terrifying red flag, Grant was a professional. He had a job to do. So he keyed his radio to his coordinator up on the surface, a guy named Kyle, and with these words, he went in. Inside, the ship was a total wreck, just silt and decay everywhere. But there, on the bridge, he found what he came for. And this is where the mystery gets even deeper. In the middle of all that chaos and destruction, the black box was just sitting there, wedged between two consoles, looking practically brand new, perfectly preserved. So, with the prize in hand, the team heads back to the surface. And this is where the real investigation begins, as they sit down to listen to the sounds from decades ago. This was it, the moment of truth. What was on that tape? What happened in those final, terrifying moments for the original crew? And could it possibly explain how the hull was bent outwards? At first, the recording is just what you'd expect. Static, some routine ship chatter. But then a crewman's voice cuts through the noise, and he sounds concerned. He reports movement directly under the ship. Right after that, the recording is just shattered by this sound. Not a creak or a groan, but a huge, violent, metallic bang against the hull. And then another one, even louder. It reminds me of those real-world deep-sea mysteries, like that sound called the bloop. Unexplained, incredibly powerful, and coming from something huge. The recording ends with one final panicked shout from the captain. That thing that was banging on the outside, it wasn't outside anymore. It was inside the ship with them. And then the tape just cuts to this awful, sharp, metallic screech. And that's it. Silence. That recording left the whole crew completely shaken. But for Grant, it wasn't enough. He was obsessed. So the next morning, against direct orders, he made a decision that would change everything. He was going back down. He had to see that breach for himself, and this time, he was going alone. But when he got down to the wreck, less than 24 hours later, something was different. The whole ship had somehow sunk deeper into the seabed. The silt he'd kicked up yesterday was perfectly settled again, like nobody'd been there for years. The whole wreck just felt heavier, more permanent. He swam up to that same tear in the hull and shined his light inside, and that's when he saw it. It wasn't debris shifting, it was movement. Something absolutely massive shifting with this slow, heavy rhythm, almost like it was breathing. He immediately hits his radio. His voice is shaking. He needs his team. He needs Kyle to confirm what he's seeing. You guys seeing this? But all he gets back is nothing, just the hiss of static. Total radio silence. Grant starts to ascend, and that dead silence on his radio is making everything 100 times more terrifying. As he's rising, his radio suddenly crackles back to life. But what he hears, it makes absolutely no sense.
It's Kyle's voice, but it's faint, distorted, like it's coming through a bad connection from miles away, and the message is impossible. Grant, it's still inside. How? How could Kyle possibly know what Grant just saw in the wreck? Before he can even ask, the signal's gone again, for good this time.
When Grant finally gets back to the surface, desperate for answers, the dive platform is completely empty. His tether, the line that connects him to the ship, has been torn. For 3 agonizing days, there's nothing. Then, a passing cargo ship spots the platform, just drifting aimlessly in the open ocean, totally abandoned. And this brings us to the final, chilling piece of the puzzle. The only witness to what happened up there. The last transmission wasn't from a radio. It was from Grant's own helmet camera. So let's just be clear about what the rescue team found. They found the dive platform adrift, no sign of Grant, Kyle, or anyone else. No distress calls were ever logged. The only thing they found was Grant's helmet, which had been knocked onto the deck, and unbelievably, its little camera was still recording. The footage is shaky. You can see Grant surface to a totally empty deck. He's confused, he's calling out for his team, and then he just freezes. The camera pans down towards the water just as something enormous breaks the surface. The source describes it as having these long, jointed limbs. The camera then falls to the deck, giving us just a fleeting, terrifying glimpse. But when investigators scrubbed the audio from that dropped camera, they found one last thing, buried under all the static. It's a man's voice. Could be Grant's, could be someone else's, whispering this final, horrifying piece of information. And that leaves us with this one haunting thought. The mystery of what happened to the Harrow's call was solved, but in solving it, they unleashed something far, far worse. Because sometimes what you pull from the deep doesn't stay there.